Welcome back to The Takeout. The killing of conservative political activist Charlie Kirk underscored the frightful toll of political division and fear. But in a conversation I had with billionaire and Baltimore Orioles owner David Rubenstein just before the shooting, we discussed how sports transcends politics in terms of creating shared spaces where political uniforms are set aside. Take a listen. I want to talk to you about sports in America and cohesion in America, because it strikes me that sports is one of the few places anymore where we can all get along regardless of our political attitudes.
Well, we can all agree that sports is really probably more popular than they've ever been in terms of people watch more sports, live stream more sports, attend more sports events, bet on more sports events than ever before. And it's one of the few things that people all agree on, that sports is a good thing.
Now, you are not overly sentimental. I am not overly sentimental. And we don't want to get gauzy and pretend that we can think of sports as the way to solve all of America's problems. But it does seem to me to be a convening place that could have some value in restoring a sense of civic connectedness.
There's no doubt that people feel if you're connected to sports, you're connected to the American people. So what do politicians often do? They go to sporting events. You'll see presidents of the United States, many of them go to football games, they'll go to a tennis match.
Well, you're going to win, I'll tell you what.
And I think presidents and senior government officials feel if you get connected to a sports event and a sports team, it doesn't hurt your popularity. And so politicians want to be popular. Going to a sporting event connects you with the American people.
And I've come across some recent polling data that indicates that people who follow sports are more civically engaged, they're more politically engaged, they vote more often. They're just more connected to the fundamentals of what America and its experiment is all about.
Well, as an owner of a team, maybe we should require more people to attend sporting events because it make them a better citizen. Maybe that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that before, but that's a good idea. I'm going to work on that.
Okay, good. Last time we talked, David, President Trump was about to be inaugurated, and you were relatively sanguine about how the second iteration of President Trump's presidency would go. Are you still sanguine?
Well, he's different than he was the first term. The first term, he had never been in office before. He had a lot of people who had been in government before around him. He wanted people who knew more about government than he did. He didn't know much at that time. He's now been president for 4 years before. Now he's in his second term, and he's bringing different kinds of people who he feels more comfortable with. So the second term is different than the first term, for sure, in many ways.
Different bad, different good?
I won't categorize it or say it pejoratively or positively. I would say it's different. It's different because he's much more self-assured, much more confident of his judgment, and he knows what he wants to do, as opposed to the first time around. I think he was feeling his way. He did some good things in the first term, some things I wouldn't agree with necessarily. In the second term, he knows what he wants to do, and he's proceeding to do it. And some people like it, some people don't.
You think deeply and write frequently about the arc of America's history, its story, its ambitions, its faults. David, I don't need to tell you, there is a pretty intense conversation going on right now about what is the strength of our institutions, what is the direction of our country, are things that we once valued and assumed were permanent or falling apart before our very eyes. How would you assess that?
At any given time in history, people are always saying the world is falling apart. This happens lots of times. I would say today the United States is in reasonably good shape. We are the envy of the world in many areas, not every area. I think many of our universities are the best in the world. I think our technology companies are the best in the world. I think right now American young people, I think increasingly are well educated, and I think are ambitious and building new companies. So I wouldn't say the country's in any peril. I would say you can always do better, and certain things I would change if I was president of the United States, but I'm not going to be president of the United States. I'm too young. I'm only 76 years old. You need to be older.
Well, certainly it appears that way. And you don't feel that our institutions are under any greater threat than they have been in the past?
Well, some institutions have some challenges for sure, but I think it's too early to say that the institutions are going to be falling apart. We have a great resilience in this country, and while there are challenges from time to time, I think that the resilience of the country and the American people will help these institutions get through the challenges that they have at this time. And remember, we've seen this kind of thing before. Many times institutions are challenged, they survive, they come back stronger. And I think many of the institutions we're now seeing as being somewhat challenged, will come back stronger after a while.